Hello everyone, and welcome back to the 2020 Great Basin National Park BioBlitz. My name is Amy Springer. I am a graduate student at Utah State University. I study evolutionary genetics in insects, mainly in beetles and in butterflies, but I like all bugs and all insects. And I will be your instructor for the second half of the Hemiptera videos, starting with the suborder Auchenorrhyncha. So, if my slides will work, Auchenorrhyncha are the free-living hemipterans. And before we go any further, I want to take a moment to just think about what this means. So, this is an awfully big name. It's the Latin name for the suborder, and it seems really big and difficult to understand, but if we break it down, it's fairly descriptive and fairly simple. So, auchen is the old Greek word for neck, and rhyncha is the old Greek word for snout. So, literally translated, Auchenorrhyncha is the suborder of hemipterans that have neck snouts. Now, rhyncho you might recognize as sort of a similar term to other R names that have to do with noses, such as rhinoplasty. Rhyncho is similar to that. Other places you may have seen this, the mallard duck, very common, and its Latin name is Anas platyrhynchos, which literally translated means flat-snouted duck. Similarly, the common crow is called Corvus brachyrhynchos, which means short-snouted crow. So if we were to literally translate Auchenorrhyncha, it would mean the neck-snout hemipterans. So that's what we're going to talk about today, just a brief introduction. We'll go over some of the major families that I'm going to cover later, and just some life history, ecology, basic facts about this group of hemipterans. So just to orient you to where we are in the Hemiptera family tree, here we have class Insecta, and under class Insecta we have order Hemiptera, which is the group we're focusing on for the BioBlitz this year. And Auchenorrhyncha is the second suborder that we're going to cover, and within that there are 6 families that I have picked out. There are more than 6 total, but I have chosen some of the most common and the most interesting families and superfamilies to present to you today. Cercopoidea is the froghoppers and spittlebugs, Cicadidae is the cicadas, Cicadelidae is the leafhoppers, Membracidae are tree hoppers, and Flatidae and Delphacid are both types of plant hoppers. A lot of hoppers in there. And superfamily versus family, a superfamily is one level above a family. So Cercopoidea and in the other group in Sternorhyncha, Psylloidea and Coxoidea are all superfamilies, and they end with EA. And so there are families within that superfamily. On the other hand, all of the names you see here that end in AE, like Cicadidae, Cicadelidae, Flatidae, and Delphacid, those are all just families. So one level lower than a superfamily. And today I will be specifically focusing on Auchenorrhyncha, as mentioned before. So to do this, I want to look first at Herbie the Hemipteran. This is a little cartoon I made to help orient you to some of the basic structures that are going to be important for identification in these families, in Auchenorrhyncha as a whole. So Auchenorrhyncha, this suborder is known for having a neck snout, as the name implies. So the beak appears to arise at the back of the head, which is on the underside, not on the top. When we say back, we're talking about the underside in this case. And the beak appears to arise towards the back of the head rather than at the front or between the legs, as in Auchenorrhyncha. And this is a sort of a difficult character to use for identification. We'll take a look at some pictures, but in general, this is not one of the first characters I would look to for identification of this group. However, one of the characters that will be helpful for separating Auchenorrhynchans from Heteropterans is their wings. So in Auchenorrhyncha, the free-living hemipterans, their forewings are uniform and unsegmented. And what I mean by that is the entire wing looks the same. So over here on the right, I have a picture of a box elder bug, which is one of the most common and well-known of the hemipterans. And on this box elder bug, you can see that the front of the wings has sort of a leathery appearance, while the back of the wings has a membranous appearance. And that is the characteristic that is key for Heteropterans. So if you have found a bug, and it has piercing sucking beak, so you know it's a hemipteran, but it has these split types of membrane versus leather on the wings, and it forms this characteristic X shape, then you have found a Heteropteran, not an Auchenorrhyncan. So Auchenorrhynchans, no X shape. The wings are fully membranous, they don't have a leather portion. The third characteristic that's going to be key to identifying an Auchenorrhyncan is their antennae. Auchenorrhynchans don't have long antennae, they typically have very short antennae that look sort of like bristles. In fact, sometimes they can be so small that you can barely see them at all. So if you found a hemipteran that has almost no antenna that you can find, you may have found an Auchenorrhyncan. So to summarize, if your insect has 1. A piercing sucking beak near the back of the head, 2. Uniform unsegmented wings, and 3. Very short bristle-like antenna, as you can see here on this cicada. So you can see the little short antennae, the single uniform wings with no leathery portion, and this is actually its beak right in here. Then you've found an Auchenorrhyncan. A few facts about Auchenorrhyncha's lifestyles of these species and ecology. There are over 4,000 named species, and they are found on all continents except Antarctica. And you may laugh at that, but there are insects in Antarctica, so it does bear noting that they are not in Antarctica, mainly because Auchenorrhynchans, like most hemipterans, feed on plants, and there aren't many plants in Antarctica. They are especially prolific in the tropics, and there are a ton of beautiful, very colorful Auchenorrhynchans in the tropics, such as this Auchenorrhyncan here on the right, which is a type of fulgurid. And like all hemipterans, Auchenorrhynchans use their piercing sucking beak, known as a rostrum, to suck on plant tissue in general. Sometimes there are a few that will occasionally do carnivorous things, but by and large these are plant feeders, and they use their straw-like beaks to suck out plant sap. A few other interesting characteristics about the Auchenorrhynchans. Many of them are known for producing very loud sounds and for using sound to communicate with one another. Some produce audible vibrations, like cicadas, which you'll often hear during the summer, and some of them produce vibrations that they send along the stem of a plant, so that another insect sitting on that plant can feel those vibrations in the stem and respond to them. Their fossil record dates back to the Triassic, and a couple of key identification characteristics, again, are 3 tarsal segments, which we will go into soon, unsegmented and uniform forewings, so no X shape, and those short bristle-like antennae. The families, just again for a review of what I'll be covering in the next videos, are superfamily Cercopoidea, family Cicadidae, family Cicadelidae, family Membracidae, family Flattidae, and family Delphacidae. So join me for the next videos covering these 6 families to learn about the ecology and identification characteristics and just some fun facts about these really cool groups of hemipterans. Hope to see you there.